a lot out of them. We're getting some really positive feedback from some of the participants, which is always very rewarding. Tonight we have another solid webinar presentation coming up from Chris Cathers, who will continue talking about Indigenous business ideas and opportunities and the types of ventures and initiatives that you might consider undertaking, and a lot of the perspective of Indigenous business operations. Before I hand the baton over to Chris, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge with respect the traditional territory of the Lekwungen people, whose land this program is based, and the Sanghees, Esquimalt, and Wisanic peoples whose historic relationship continues on with the land to this day. So we thank you all for attending virtually from the different traditional territories you reside. And we have people really from all over Vancouver Island and BC. I hope you are all staying well, staying safe, maybe a little bit of cabin fever thrown into the mix, but we will get past this. And part of the Indigenous entrepreneurial training is part of that, to prepare everybody for opportunities now and opportunities once this kind of nightmare is past. So I'm going to pass the presenter baton over to Chris, and I will let him lead on. Please remember, Chris, if you need any of the URLs or YouTubes, give me a minute or a couple of seconds to get them set up once you take over.
Hello, everybody. Thanks again for joining us on this next webinar. Like Jay had mentioned, my name is Chris Cathers. I'm not sure if we have some new members in the room, but I just first of all like to recognize the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people on Vancouver Island. I'm in Nanaimo, so I just want to recognize the territories of Nanaimo for allowing us to live, work, and play on this beautiful land. My name is Chris. I am a Métis entrepreneur and very passionate about entrepreneurship and business. I love being a part of new business startup. And yeah, so we're going to continue on from the workshop that we had yesterday with regards to looking at different business opportunities. And so last night we kind of left off looking at drop shipping, and I did see that some people were had expressed some interest in drop shipping. So just to kind of recap about what drop shipping is about. Drop shipping is where you find popular products that you can find at affordable or low prices and that are in demand, and that you essentially resell them online through your website. And there are some great platforms like Shopify and Amazon and eBay, which allow you to resell products. And through some of these platforms like Shopify, you can basically, create an online store and sell your products very easily. So just a quick recap as well for maybe a few people who are just joining us and weren't able to attend last night. I own and operate a digital marketing company called Evolution Business Media Group, where I've been running that for the last 9 years. And we specialize in providing digital online branding, web, social, video, content management, search engine optimization, basically all the ways that the business needs to kind of get found and seen. And traditionally now where people are spending their money is through online or digital ways. So I do that. I also operate a drop shipping company called rooftoptents.ca, and that's where I sell rooftop tents, and I import them from overseas, and then I resell them here in Canada. As well as I'm also involved in some real estate ventures, and where I operate some rentals as well as some Airbnb units. Yeah, thanks, Jay. There's the example again. So I don't actually make these rooftop tents, but basically I've found a supplier that I'm able to purchase them from, and then I'm able to resell them back here in Canada for a profit. Obviously it does take some capital and some time to kind of get launched, but there's ways you can basically create an online store and it doesn't have to cost too much. So yeah, I would definitely, if you are interested in creating a commerce business like this, I would check out Shopify, and I would look at Shopify's platform called Oberlo, which has a lot of really great third-party apps that will allow you to kind of create and systemize different components of the drop shipping company, from marketing tools to customer service integration, chats, newsletters, that type of thing. Another business that I think nowadays is highly sought after and in demand is the business that I'm in, as well as in marketing and social media management. Businesses realize they need to get online and they need to promote and market their business. So marketing and social media is something that businesses always are going to need. It's always going to be in demand. One thing that's interesting now with social media is this thing called social influencer. For those of you who use Instagram, you see people on there that are basically get a ton of traffic, they get a ton of likes, or they get a ton of interactions, and some of them are actually smart and able to convert all their traffic and to monetize it. So basically what they do is they find companies that want to align with the demographics of the people that are viewing their social media platforms, and they're basically able to sell advertising space on these platforms or promote these brands through these social media platforms. So whether that's Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, basically you can you build up a lot of traffic and a lot of interest. There's generally a segment of the population that will be attracted to this this stream, whether it's like maybe you're into like outdoors or camping, or maybe you're into traveling, or maybe you're really into food. All these types of things have an interest, and by acquiring a lot of this interest and traffic, you potentially could reach out to other businesses that want to be in front of those audience, and you can basically sell sponsorship on your social media platforms. And you can kind of see that now with media, like the traditional newspapers. Like I noticed some of Black Press newspapers now, what they're doing is they're having sponsored content on their social media platforms, realizing the reach that social media can have is way more than any print material can. Not to mention the cost to promote and market in the in that area. Like the cost to print and distribute traditional forms of media is expensive, so they have to pay for that some way. So those forms of advertising can be really expensive. So what they're doing now is they're adapting, and they're seeing the potential for sponsored content, and basically they're selling advertising space through their Facebook or Twitter or Instagram accounts to their traditional clients. So you kind of see this shift to businesses spending their money and their marketing on social media advertising, and the opportunities that exist for social influencers. And so if you can create a community and kind of segment it around like a niche market, you could reach out to businesses who want to be in front of them and pitch them on sponsoring your content. I've also seen this reach out for like people who are like doing like product testing, or sometimes people can get free swag or free gear from just talking about certain products, or getting sponsored to go on trips or travels. Another thing that I see is very popular is this kind of travel blogging, and it's kind of combined with this kind of social media, social influencer. And so you can if you combine a good website with a blog and social media platforms, you can kind of basically do something that you're really passionate about if you like to travel, and then write about these unique experiences. Because one of the things about traveling is people are always researching before they go on trips, and they're looking for information about cool spots or different locations, and so you could combine that with something that you really like doing with this kind of a marketing component. But again, I'd highly recommend, if you are going to go into that area, that you kind of try to find your niche, right? And you provide a service that, is specific to maybe a certain number of kinds of companies. And one tool that I use is for doing this, and is a software program or web-based platform called Upwork.com. Jay, maybe I don't know if you're able. I don't think I have the link on that link sheet, but it's Upwork.com, and it's like an online crowdsourcing platform for talent. And so you can find programmers, graphic designers, writers, editors, video editors, almost any potential consultant that you can think of, and you can essentially develop a whole team of subcontractors. So the key thing here is, if you are going to go that route and hire subcontractors, you just have to really manage the quality, because you can find subcontractors. Upwork, I'll send the link here. There's a varying degree of different quality, so you really have to find someone who has good quality, and as well is you need to basically just kind of really manage that process. So you can basically build a complete business by using some of this talent through Upwork. You'll find you get a lot of programmers like from India. You'll get a lot of different consultants from the States or Europe or the Philippines, and sometimes obviously language can be a barrier, and time zones, as well as different concepts of quality. So again, you just have to make sure you know what you want, and communicate really well. So here's Upwork. It's great if you need a logo design. You can. What the great thing about that is, you can set the price, what you're willing to pay, and basically it's like a post, so you can essentially post a job, and then people can apply for it. It's the same like Fiverr is another one, Fiverr.com. And again, it's another crowdsourcing platform that can allow you to find different talents and stuff like that. So so basically that's kind of one of the platforms that I use when I'm looking for new talent. Obviously, I've been doing it a long time, so I have existing relationships built and trust, and so I've got the systems in place where I communicate with them, and so basically you kind of want to really manage that aspect of the quality. I just can't stress that enough. So another business opportunity that I really think, and that's growing, and is anything to do with mobile phones. Mobile phones are basically here. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be around forever. So whether that's maybe cell phone accessories, maybe you're building cell phone accessories, or you're fixing cell phones. I unfortunately ran over my cell phone the other day, and I cracked the screen, and I took it in, and because it's a newer phone, I had to pay like over $400 to get the cell phone fixed. And I was talking to the cell phone repair person, and they were just swamped. They just have so much work because people can't live without their cell phones. So if something happens to them, if they get wrecked or cracked, and we all know how easy it is to wreck phones these days, they're always going to be in need of repair. And also I think too, there's a kind of a certain status when it comes around cell phones and cases. And so, I would, if you were someone who's creative and artistic, maybe you could look at digitizing some of your artwork and putting it on a cell phone case, or that kind of thing. That's seems to be a really popular market that's never going to really go away. Or at the same time, flip side of that is developing mobile apps. I think if you see or experienced something out there that, you know, maybe you think could be done a little bit better, whether it's some kind of a process or, you know, some kind of a form or something you need to fill out, you know, you guys, there's got to be a better way of doing this. Maybe you could look at, you know, developing an app or something like that. And again, you know, you don't necessarily even have to build the app. You just have to have the idea. So, you know, you could try to find someone, you know, and basically like hire them to develop the app. You know, of course, I would, you know, make sure you do your research and see if there's anything else out there that's, you know, competition. But yeah, mobile apps are really popular, and mobile games, you know, anything to do with cell phones, I think you can't really go wrong. Another area that I really like is virtual assistants. I know that Jay has had some experience with virtual assistants in the past, and we met and worked with a previous virtual assistant in another entrepreneurship program that we had. And so, what a virtual assistant is basically someone who, you know, works out of their home or their office or what have you, and they do tasks, administrative tasks for clients. So whether that's like a small business, medium, large business, or an organization that requires someone to kind of help them out and, you know, maybe check emails or correspond with suppliers or contractors, or just do small tasks that are like data input or helping organize, you know, events or meetings or, you know, that kind of thing. It's a way to kind of offload some of your daily tasks and routines that you know, maybe would rather not do, or maybe you're not really good at. One of the things I stressed in the last webinar last night was about, you know, surrounding yourself with really good people and focusing on the tasks that you're really good at and that you're passionate about, and then maybe trying to outsource some of the things you're not as good at and maybe don't like to do. You know, like maybe you're not really a numbers person and you don't really like, you know, calculating all your expenses or your receipts, or, you know, doing invoicing and reconciling bank statements, but maybe you can have a virtual assistant that can help with some of those tasks, and then that way, you know, it can alleviate some of you know, the things you don't like about running a business. So you know, and then also maybe, you know, just you take a lot of volume of phone calls and you just have someone who can help out with that. So, you know, nowadays you don't necessarily even have to have like an office or a, you know, location to all do the business together. You can all work remotely, and I think, you know, during this COVID, this has really proven that, and it's opened up people's minds to, you know, streamlining and looking at ways that you can run business virtually, and you don't necessarily have to do it. I mean, I've been running my business virtually for the last, you know, 8-9 years, and it also can allow you to travel too. Like this last winter, I was over in Asia, and I was still running my company, and I traveled through Vietnam. I traveled to Japan and to Bali and to Singapore, and I did that with my family and for 3 months. So you know, again, I also had a virtual assistant and a virtual coordinator, and as well as a subcontractor. So I, you know, maintained my clients and did client relations, and then just basically, you know, you utilize virtual contractors to be able to help me and do some of these tasks that I wasn't able to do. So, you know, I think that, you know, if your business can run with these virtual components to it, I definitely would recommend it, because, you know, you save time by, you know, having to travel, or, you know, maybe you can save overhead costs by not having a full-time salary person and all the, you know, extra expenses that go on with having employees, but maybe a subcontractor, virtual assistant, you know, and maybe you're good at that stuff and that's the service you provide. So I really like that kind of concept, and I think that they're in high demand by companies and they're freelancers, and, you know, especially too, as, you know, look at like a drop shipping model, you know, they're going to need someone to kind of help answer inquiries and emails depending on the volume, and that's a perfect job for a virtual assistant. Another market that I like is around photography or videography. If you're really creative and you're good with taking pictures, I would recommend maybe getting into that type of business. It definitely, there's lots of areas from weddings to back to blogs and blogging, travel writing. Maybe you like technology and drones are very interesting to you. There's all kinds of different applications for drones these days, whether it's like industry, forestry, resource based. I've even heard of obviously we know realtors use that, as well as building inspections or roofing companies, or there's or for marketing purposes, right? Like doing videos, and there's all kinds of different ways that this type of technology people want to use. So I know there's a company in Nanaimo that do a really good job around running a business, taking photos, and that's Artez. I would recommend you checking them out. They seem to have the whole market cornered here in Nanaimo for real estate photography. And what they do, and it's really neat, is they totally systemize their business. They have a van, I think it's like a transit van, and they drive around to houses that realtors want them to take photos of. One person goes in, takes all the photos, does little video clips, and then one person's in the van on their computer. So they instantly upload the pictures to their computer in the van while they're at the site, and that person edits the photos and organizes them and does quick little video clips, and then they immediately upload it or forward it or email it to the client, and they do it so fast, they get such a quick turnaround that they're working on volume. So they don't charge as much as some other photographers, but they compete on volume, and they're really good. And they've developed this whole business segment because when you're in real estate, realtors, the time frame between when the house is ready to be photographed to the time it needs to get up listed on MLS is immediately. So they've identified this market that they need to get these photos quickly, and they're providing a really good service. So that kind of area, maybe that's not being filled in your community, and that's something that interests you, but that's something I like photography and videography businesses. Seems to be a growing market. So yeah, again, another thing I had here is just developing applications. So whether that's creating a program to do some kind of a job or task that is maybe being done manually, and there's a way to get it done quicker or faster. Again, like I was saying yesterday, everybody's using these devices. Our mobile phones are with us all the time. We're always on them. We're using them, and there's ways to use them without just basically phone, text, or check social media or your email. But you got all different types of apps, like weather type of apps, or apps that check media and news or games, or even like hunting apps or fishing apps or music, or calendars, reminders. There's so many different types of applications that if you have a good idea, maybe it's definitely worth exploring. And again, hiring a freelance application building company would be something that you'd want to consider. Another business, and not everyone thinks of it like a business, but one business that I've personally done very well at, and I think there's a really good opportunity, and it will continue to be an opportunity, even though right now is maybe not the best time, but that's Airbnb rentals. And so Airbnb, it's not a real estate business like some people might think, but it's a hospitality business. And if I know Indigenous people, I know most Indigenous people are very hospitable people, and they're really good at making people feel comfortable, and they're good at being very hospitable. And so I would recommend, like, if you have the space, or maybe you look at securing the space, but to start off by doing some kind of Airbnb rental. And I think most people nowadays know what Airbnb is, but but essentially what Airbnb is it allows you to rent out unused space in your home or your rental, whether that's maybe a bedroom in a home, or maybe it's a basement suite, or maybe it's the top floor of the house, or heck, maybe it's even a tree fort in your backyard. There's all different types of different ways that you can rent out the space. Maybe it's a RV or a travel trailer in your yard, and basically you can rent out this space to maybe it's people who are working or traveling, or someone who just needs short-term accommodations because they're relocating. um, we've been doing Airbnbs for a number of years now, and it appears to be, with the exception of the last few months, of course, it seems to be growing and growing and growing. I think that like any technology, there's always this kind of slow adoption rate where it kind of goes like this and it climbs and climbs and climbs, but then it just like takes right off. And yeah, so there's the app that Jay showed here. So Airbnb, and so here Jay is showing that there's opportunities for people who are working in the front line, or people who Also, another thing that Airbnb does now is experiences, and maybe you have a really cool experience, like maybe you're into tourism, and maybe you like mountain biking. Airbnb will let you post an experience online and allow you to. They'll market your experience for you. Yeah, if you slow down a sec there, I think where is it? Oh yeah, so there's yoga right up there. So you see there someone stretching, like, so someone's doing yoga, someone's a plant doctor, so there's music, so there's these different experiences now that Airbnb is allowing people to market and promote to their platform. Because what happens is a lot of their users are, say, tourists, and they come into a community, and they don't really know much about the area. They don't know a lot of people, and they're really into like bird watching, for example. Well, if you know really good places to look for birds, and you're passionate about birds, you like birds, maybe you could create an experience on Airbnb and take people to your favorite birding places. And believe it or not, actually birding is a very popular thing. I myself am not a birder, but I know people like birding, and especially with the older demographics, they have more disposable income. They like birding. So again, Airbnb allows you. They allow you to rent out your spaces, or your rooms, your house, or your suite. And that's another thing too. Like, if you may know you're going to be living at your house for say 6 months of the year, but then your work takes you somewhere else for 6 months. Well, you could rent that space out for 6 months while you're not there. Of course, you have to, make it kind of more like generic and kind of take some of your personal stuff out. But, you can get, hundreds of dollars a night for a house, or, maybe you could get, if you have a suite, maybe you could get like $100 a night, or maybe you have a room in the house and you can get like, 40 $30 to $50 a night for your room. So, basically it allows you to kind of turn this unused spaces into profit generating income. I know of some people who take it to that next level, and they offer a service to other homeowners and allow them to basically market and promote their place, and they manage the Airbnb rental, and they look after the cleaning and organizing, and they basically get like a commission off every rental. And I think the going rate is around 20 to 25% of the revenue. So you could essentially create a business by Airbnb other people's property out, like as like a property manager. And there's no you don't need to be a certified property manager to do that. You just have to be good with people. You kind of have to be hospitable, and you have to, be organized, and you can basically create a business by renting other people's property out. And I know that in some cities where there are, like, some places they have like fancy luxurious houses. Some people can, specialize in like these high-end accommodations and basically manage it for them and promote to people who are looking for these higher end properties. So, another thing that we're considering setting up personally is I have this really cool Métis Indigenous teepee, and we're planning on setting this up in my backyard. So I live in some rural land, and it's like kind of forested, and so we're going to basically set up like a teepee with accommodations in it. And I was doing some analysis and some comparisons on what do people charge. Well, people are like charging like $150 a night in some cities for this experience, because you got to think that, like, there's people maybe living in a high-rise or apartment in Vancouver, or and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for this kind of escape or this unique opportunity. But I think if you go on and do a search online for like unique Airbnb stays and some of the most sought after Airbnbs, there are things like tree forts, or like tree houses, or I think there was one in Parksville that had these round spheres and they're suspended in the air, and they were renting out for like $200-300 a night. So these types of things, it's kind of this new sharing economy model, right? Like things like Uber and Lyft, these ride sharing type of applications. And so here's a short video here about some things to consider if you are going to set up an Airbnb, and it's something you want to do. There's a fellow here that have some recommendations about what to do about building and starting an Airbnb. So go ahead and play it, Jay.
It's amazing all the headlines that you have seen regarding Airbnb and short-term rentals and the sharing economy. And now I bet you are wondering, how on earth can you start an Airbnb business? Well, in this video, we're going to answer that question and more right now. Hi, my name is Jay Massey, and welcome back to Cashflow Diary TV. I've had the privilege of welcoming more than 3,000 guests through 1,000 reservations using platforms that you may be familiar with, like HomeAway, VRBO, Airbnb, as well as others. If you have the desire to build your own business and want to learn the latest tips, tactics, tools, and techniques that you can use to become a bigger, better, badder business owner, then please consider subscribing. In this video, what I want to do is I want to give you 3 things to consider when you are thinking about starting your first Airbnb business. Number 1, one of the most important things to understand is that you are in the hospitality business. Having a lot of experience in real estate is great, but this is a completely different business. And that's okay, because that means even if you've never done real estate, you still can do this right here. Here's what I mean. When someone comes to one of your locations, what they are thinking about is the experience, and what you need to be thinking about is the experience that they're going to have once they walk through the door. Now, obviously, depending on where you live, part of their experience is what's outside the door as well. That's great. That might have attracted them to the area, but what you want to know is what's going to attract them to your location. Therefore, you need to be thinking about the experience. For example, the first question that you need to ask yourself is, whom do you wish to serve? Once you understand whom you wish to serve, you'll be able and better equipped to go out there and create an experience specifically tailored for them. What do I mean by that? I mean specifically that a family with children might not want a place with any stairs or a high-rise balcony, simply because their children are small and that could become a risk factor. Things like that can have a significant impact on who chooses to stay at your location. The other side of that equation is maybe you don't wish to serve any families with any kids whatsoever. In that case, you probably don't mind picking places with stairs or using a high-rise piece of real estate that has a balcony, because that can become an attractor for that particular type of couple or individual who's traveling. Number 2, how much time do you actually have to commit to serving individuals? This is very, very important, because you must remember that not only is the work in obtaining the reservation. The work is also in servicing the person once they arrive. One of the things that you need to think about is, what are your customers' expectations? Here's what I mean. We've all heard of stores like Walmart, Target, as well as Nordstrom. Well, each one of those stores sells something similar. For example, shirts. You could get a shirt from Walmart, you could get a shirt from Target, and you can get a shirt from Nordstrom. But when you go to Walmart, Target, and Nordstrom, you have a different expectation. You have a different expectation in the quality of the actual product. You also have a different expectation in what happens if you have a return that you need to make as well. All being said, there are different levels of time required to meet your customer's expectation. So for example, let's pretend that you wanted to be the Nordstrom high-class person in your general area, that's the type of listing and that's the type of organization that you wanted to run. Now, that's not to say that you can't have high levels of service and customer service and do great 5-star things at the Walmart or Target level. I'm just trying to say you're using finer finishes. You're delivering a more boutique experience as opposed to something that might be necessarily mass produced. Here's my point. When you are going down the Nordstrom route, it may require more of your hands-on time. For example, one of the things that you could consider in a Nordstrom level style service is simply a concierge. Well, who's going to do that? Who's going to possibly pick up your guest at the airport? Who's going to make sure that they have a local phone number for them to contact to be able to get directions or find that restaurant reservation or make those extra arrangements that they just might need on their behalf? If that's not you, then maybe Nordstrom level isn't what you're ready for just yet. All I'm trying to say is think about what your customer is expecting, because delivering on your customer's expectations is the #1 way to protect your 5-star rating and making sure that you get future business again from the same person. Okay, and number 3. For those of you who want to know the absolute best thing that you can do to get started and make sure that when you are building your business that you eliminate a ton of mistakes and start hitting your target market properly, one of the best things that you can do is stay at another short-term rental. That's right. One of the best things to do is, before you start serving someone else, is let someone else serve you. I know you feel like, I've stayed at a hotel before, I've stayed at a bed and breakfast, I've stayed at all of these other places. I'm telling you, something is completely different when you actually go and experience it for yourself. Now, understand this. When your new guest is coming, the experience starts immediately from the interface, from the platform that you've chosen to be a part of, or your website, however they have found you. That's where the experience begins. So you might want to consider doing this on multiple platforms, meaning literally booking a reservation on each and every platform that you intend to be a part of so that you can understand what your guest is experiencing. This will give you a leg up over those that are also on that same platform. Now, for some of you, maybe you've never done this before and you're just looking at it as a business like me, because that was the first thought. When this came into my life, what I was looking at was like, hey, this seems to be a neat way to use real estate and gives me an opportunity to possibly build something that, well, my kids can participate in, something that would be closer to home, something that seemed to be more tangible, easier to execute, and just probably more fun. And that's really what I was after. So maybe you're in that category. So with that being said, what I've learned is that instead of going wide, go deep. Pick an easy platform to get started with, and most importantly, take that platform to as deep a level as you possibly can. Now, having served thousands of reservations and thousands upon thousands of people, in my opinion, one of the easiest platforms for everyone to get started on right now is, of course, Airbnb. Now, maybe you've never stayed at a unit that was advertised on that particular platform, and I completely understand it, but either going through it on the computer versus going through it also on your phone and the mobile experience. Those are two completely different experiences, and it's definitely something you should look at. But I honestly want you to go and find a place to stay in your local area, even if it's just for one night, and observe things like, what did the photos look like? What was the title that got your attention? What were the words or photos in the description that actually mattered to you? And most importantly, what was that reservation experience like? How did the directions get to you? How did you pick up the keys? All of those things. What was your impression the moment you walked through the door? All of those things are things that you want to detail and that you definitely want to make sure that you know. It's really, really difficult to start any business, let alone this business, without having experienced it as a customer first. This is exactly why I'm suggesting that. Now, for some of you, maybe you don't have an account on the Airbnb platform already, and that's completely fine. What I've done is I've included a link for you in the description that will also give you $40 off for all of you who are registering a new account. So if you're registering a new account, click the link in the description and you'll get $40 off. Obviously, if you use that link, it does support the channel a little bit, and that is always appreciated. But at the end of the day, it's really hard to start a business that you've never actually experienced the product of. And in fact, I think you'll be a better, bigger, fatter business owner if you do it this way. Now that you've heard from me, I'm eager to hear from you. So all of you out there with inquiring minds, do me a favor. Put your questions in the comments section below so that I can read them.
All right, so thanks, Jay. So Jay, just one quick note that maybe next time the video plays, turn your mic on mute, because I noticed I was getting a lot of echo and reverb from the video. So yeah, so it was kind of an interesting video, and it kind of gives you some, like, there's some common sense stuff there as far as when you're getting going, running an Airbnb, about the importance of maybe trying it yourself, and looking at other people's Airbnb listing, do some research on seeing what's out there and where it's located, and then one thing again that the video didn't touch on, but that the platform can do is that if you have an experience, again, like generally cooking, maybe you could teach people how to cook, traditionally, or you could take people on nature hikes, or this type of thing. And if maybe it's maybe this business idea that you want to have, and you don't necessarily want to do it full time right away, what this Airbnb system could do is allow you to kind of ease into the business, and still maybe maintain your other employment. But what it can do is you can set when you're available as far as your calendar goes, and that maybe you could just do it on the weekends or the evenings or certain days, and that you can put it open and make it. And then another thing I like about it is that there's also some protection that Airbnb offers through some of their insurance and their liability. So if that's a concern for you, some of these platforms allow that. And another one is Outdoorsy. You may have heard of that, or RV Easy. So maybe you have a motorhome or a travel trailer or a tent trailer. Well, there are a lot of tourists or families or people that may want the experience of camping or traveling, but they don't necessarily want to own the equipment. And these platforms have become very popular over the last few years. And I would, if you have some of this and you camping and you like that type of business, or I would recommend maybe looking into it. Again, that's Outdoorsy is one of them, and RV Easy is the other one. So again, that's that whole sharing economy model where you have some kind of an asset, or you have some kind of something that's maybe underutilized, and you're able to promote it and market it. And these platforms have like built-in calendar systems, and so I just kind of like you could do these types of businesses part-time or on the side, but you could also, if you want to, like really scale up and do it more. But a few things to kind of take into consideration if that kind of business idea is something you like. Quality photos always makes a huge difference, right? Hiring a good quality photographer or using a really good camera, and getting really good pictures can make a big difference as far as who you target as far as who those customers are, right? Time, when you're renting out your property or, maybe your RV or, doing these experiences, it all takes a substantial amount of time and commitment in order to be successful, right? So, make sure that you are conscious of that and you don't, do too much or, try to do too many things and then cut short that side of it, right? First impressions are obviously really important, right? Cleanliness, how responsive you are to replying to people. And I think that's, that can be said with any type of business, the importance of, like how was that first interaction with the company, right? Because I think, people, like first impressions are important, right? So, like how was it when they first contacted you? How did you present yourself? How did you look? How did you answer the phone? All these things, these are really important for really any business, no matter what. Individual experiences, Airbnb will like when you have a really unique location or accommodation, they like that, and that's also very attractive. Pricing is obviously really huge for any type of business. You have to understand what your competitors are charging. Maybe certain peak periods of demand, you maybe need to adjust your price lower in the slow season. Oh, Jay, I think your mic's back on. You gotta maybe you get so much demand in the summer or certain types of year that you need to jack the price up because there's just so much demand. And response time, that's really important. How quickly you respond to inquiries, or how fast you are at getting back to people's emails. This again is just really critical, and I think in any business, really, if you get back to people real quickly, it shows that you're available and you're motivated and you want to do business. So I think that response time is really important. I'm doing some things like systemizing, like a lockbox on your rental. Like you can on Amazon, you can pay like $25 and get one of those little key locks, like a combination locks, so you don't actually have to be there to meet people. This is another way to kind of systemize, your business or whatever. Obviously look at legalities. I know that some communities, like for example, Vancouver, they're really kind of cracked down on Airbnb units, and some communities they've outlawed them, and some communities it's kind of a gray area where there's rules around it, but they're not really being enforced. So I would say, and in business, I know Jay kind of talks about this around flexible ethics. I would say sometimes it's better to beg for forgiveness than it is for permission. So if you are thinking about doing that, and you're worried about you're going to get in trouble for doing like an Airbnb, for example, I would just do it. And if someone tells you to shut it down, then shut it down. But don't let it stop you. You don't necessarily think that you need a business license to run a business. That's something I always hear and see all the time is like, oh, I can't run my business because I don't have a business license. Well, a big deal. Run your business until someone tells you that you need a business license. I mean, again, better to beg for forgiveness than it is for permission. Just get your business going. I think that's important, bottom line. Cleaning services. There's another real big opportunity around, I think I mentioned that last night, but cleaning services is definitely a growth market. And I like the cleaning business because it's a service-based business. It doesn't cost a lot of money to get going. There's always a demand for cleaning services, whether it's an Airbnb unit. And oh, by the way, with Airbnbs, you charge a cleaning fee. So, usually people charge like, $40 to $60 per place, depending how big it is and how long it takes to clean. But you could also make money on your Airbnb if you do the cleaning and you're charging the cleaning service. So essentially you could be running a hospitality business, but you could also be running a cleaning business. And maybe you're cleaning for other Airbnbs as well, and just maybe managing one Airbnb, but you're good at cleaning and you know how to do it real quick, so you can go and manage other people's rentals. But again, we're living in a location here that there's tons of older demographics of people who need cleaning services, and so you can always find opportunities around a business that does cleaning, whether it's for businesses or maybe new construction or and speaking of new construction, I have a tenant of mine who is flipping a house with a realtor friend of his, and a really interesting business that he hired for his house was he hired a what do you call it, a home stager, where this lady owns a bunch of really nice high-end furniture and like really cool art pieces, and she goes in with a helper, and they set up all this furniture and they make the place look good, and she charged him like $3,000 per month to have this furniture all set up and really nice in their place. And I'm pretty sure that all that furniture was already paid for, and obviously she's creative and she has a good eye for design. But here she goes in, she spends probably like, half a day to 3/4 of a day, and then all her furniture sits in this house for like a month, and she's getting like $3,000 a month for her stuff just to sit in there. So again, that's that shared economy, that kind of like asset where you're renting out something that you own and have, and you kind of systemize it and turn it into like a business. I think those types of things. I think you doesn't cost a lot of money to get going, but can have high dividends and pay a good return without being super time consuming. So you can obviously scale up more, like get more furniture, or maybe in the cleaning business, you maybe hire another cleaner, and maybe you charge $25-30 an hour, and then you hire someone to do cleaning for like $17-18 an hour, and so different ways to kind of scale up your business. So those are the type of businesses that I seem to really like. Same with like automotive detailing. People are use their vehicles and they don't necessarily have the time to detail their vehicle, or maybe there's business or commercial fleets that need someone to kind of clean their vehicles. I like the automotive detailing business as well. Again, it's not a super high startup cost, and you can do a mobile cleaning business. So another kind of a neat business idea is around YouTube. YouTube is the second most searched search engine in the world, and obviously Google is the most searched website in the world, but the second one is YouTube. And obviously most people have probably searched and gone onto YouTube. I know I've got kids who sometimes they get the tablet or they wrangle my phone, they want to look on YouTube, and it's really interesting to see some of these YouTube videos. Like for example, some of you probably have seen these videos where people are unwrapping and playing with toys or games or and to look at some of these views that these videos have created is like just incredible, like millions or even like billions of views. And so what happens is once you start getting so much traffic on your YouTube site, you can actually monetize it, and you can start making money from it. Again, it's that same idea around the Instagram influencer. You get this targeted traffic. There's people who want to pay to advertise and be in front of them. Maybe you have a really amazing cat or amazing dog, or maybe you have some kind of a neat talent or just a passion. Like maybe you're really good at like fixing cars or automotive. Well, you can do short videos on like how to install a starter, for example, or like how to install a turbo kit on your car, or how to change a light bulb in your truck, or anything like that. And now with cell phones, like most of these cell phones that have pretty incredible videos or cameras in them that you can take really good quality video. You obviously don't want like shaky video or horrible sound, because people are just going to click off that. But if you can create a channel and post regularly and put really good quality video up about something that you're really passionate about, and you do your homework. You don't even have to be a really good video editor, because I've showed you that tool Upwork, and you could find a really good videographer, and you can have someone professionally edit it for you, and it doesn't cost you a lot to do so. So you could find a way to create a channel. It doesn't cost you anything to start up a YouTube channel. Doesn't cost you anything to make a Facebook or Instagram or any of these social media platforms where you can promote your videos, and you can get going. Like maybe you can unwrap new toys. The interesting thing when I talk about this, the unwrapping of toys, is what happens is your kid gets on the phone and is looking at YouTube. They look at a video, and then once they're finished watching that video, it shows you a list of other videos to click on, and then your kid goes on, clicks on this next video, and they start seeing these other videos on different types of other people opening toys or playing with Play-Doh or doing Hot Wheel toys or what have you, and they keep watching these videos on and on. So then all of a sudden you're getting more clicks and you're getting more views. Well, YouTube will start paying you to monetize it, and there's a little button where you can click to monetize it. Or maybe you're really good at like electronics, and you could start reviewing products, like new electronics coming on, or maybe you like to build tiny houses, or maybe you like to travel. Again, all these types of things you can do with video, and it doesn't really cost you, because you have a cell phone, or you most likely have a cell phone with a really good camera, and you can do short little videos. You can maybe get like a little cell phone camera stand that goes on your table, so you're not moving it, like getting it all blurry, and then you just upload your video from your cell phone. And there's some tricks to it, obviously, like writing good descriptions for the videos, and you need to understand what keywords are. But if that's something that interests you, you should do the research and look into it. But YouTube, again, is another really good social media tool to promote your business or your products or services. And again, it's like, doesn't cost you a lot of money, right? I see realtors will do that all the time when they create a new listing. They'll go in and they'll show people what the property looks like and inside the house, and they'll quickly upload it to their Facebook page or what have you. Again, it doesn't cost you any money. So like, one of the amazing things about nowadays and in business is we have these tools available that we never really had before. Before, if you wanted to create a business, and run a business, you had to have like deep pockets. You had to spend a lot of money on marketing and advertising, and to be found and to be heard. But nowadays, you don't really need a lot of money to market your company, and the playing field is really leveled. So you can use things like social media, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, and Facebook, and even like Facebook Marketplace is like, it's really changing how people buy and sell goods. If you probably all remember, like looking in the newspaper and under classifieds for things being sold, well, you had to pay to put your listing in there. You probably remember the old buy, sell, and trade days where you had to call in before the Tuesday or the Thursday, and you had to say your listing, and you had to say it within like so many words, and you had to pay to have a photo on there. But now you got things like Facebook Marketplace, and Facebook Marketplace allows you to sell and promote your products or your services, and it's completely free. I've got a text here. It doesn't cost you a lot of money. It doesn't cost you a lot of money for to promote and market your products. And we'll be talking more about this around the technology. But again, so the YouTube channel is just a way that you can promote and market or create a company by itself. So another business I like is anything to do around pet services. People love their animals. People love their pets. Dogs, cats, what have you. So you could create businesses around anything to do with like dog walking, or pet products, or grooming, or even one that's kind of interesting is around pet hotels. So for busy people or people who are traveling and they need somewhere for Fifi or Boomer to go while they're away, this type of thing. I've even seen that people will like take your animals into their house and they'll look after your animals for like a week or 2 weeks while you're gone because no one else can look after them. Um, and so like I have a 15-year-old nephew that I was telling him that, hey, people love pets. Why don't you start up like a pet walking business? People will pay you like, 15 or 20 bucks to go walk your dog. And you can walk the dog in like 30, 40 minutes. And so you do enough of those, you can make a living and you're getting paid to do something that is healthy and you're getting exercise. And I also was telling him, you should also go and as well offer like a pet doo-doo business. People don't really want to clean up after their animals, and they're willing to pay someone to do it. And so again, it's just like anything to do with pets. I like pet clothing, that kind of thing, grooming. There's always something. Um, so I talked about. I have my notes here because I've already talked about it was around like housekeeping, right? Like Airbnbs are popular. Mom and dad now work full time. Businesses, they always need cleaners. And again, we're living in a place that there's a real aging demographic. And so, they have more disposable income. They're maybe not as capable to look after their house and their property. So they're, willing to spend some money for cleaning. And really any type of home services, I think, is going to be something, especially on the island, that's always going to be growing, whether it's, landscaping, mowing lawns, exterior cleaning, window cleaning, tree trimming, pruning, things like that. Or, I've even seen a business where it was like a snowbird service or something where, oh yeah, and Molly made, that's another really good one. Like, I think I got that in my notes up here, but yeah, like, there are, again, there's, people who maybe have aging parents and they're just not able to maybe help them out, so that they look at someone who can go in and do cleaning, or that like granny go-go service where they someone can go and drive around granny to go get her food, go to her medical appointments, take her to the bank, take her out for coffee or what have you. These type of services, are really only going to be growing because we are living in a country and a location where the baby boomers seem to be growing. So, yeah, it's 7 o'clock. We're just going to take a 10-minute break. You can go grab a drink or coffee, go for a smoke, or stretch your legs, and we'll start back up at 7:10 here.
Hi. So before Chris continues on with his workshop, I just want to cover off some of the exciting webinars that we have coming up in the next few weeks. Next week on June the 8th and the 9th, we have Lex Dunn, who is a national marketing consultant and trainer, and also an actor and theater coach. And he's going to be talking about communication, networking, and building your business. How to get people to say yes, how to hit their hot buttons, how to impress people, how to close on sales and close on deals. And that also includes an improvisation acting workshop as part of it, because part of selling and marketing is being this representative for your company and presenting yourself well. And there's some tricks of the trade, including how to network and body language, etc. So it's a really entertaining 2 series, June 8th and June 9th. On June 15th and 16th, we have Chris coming back to do technology, make technology your friend, the best web and social platforms, how to use them, how to integrate them into your business. Always a very popular series. On June 23rd and 24th, we have our marketing series. Marketing, branding, guerrilla tactics for Indigenous businesses, learning how to set your brand, how to get the biggest bang for your buck in terms of guerrilla marketing, which is a fascinating concept, and how you can best represent yourself in the marketplace. And that is led by Lex Dunn, once again, our national marketing consultant and trainer. Then June 29th and 30th, we have Making an Impact, the Successful Business Rebel. And here we talk about some advanced strategies, the psychology of business, the whole concept of flexible ethics. And I'll tell you all about it then, because I'm running those 2 workshops. Looking out for number 1, how to make sure that you take care of yourself first, why people buy, what motivates them, how to push their hot buttons, how to use the system, how to stand apart. And it's a bit of a business rebel 2 workshop series, and it's pretty interesting. And it's the kind of stuff that nobody teaches you in school, ever. So that's what you have coming up. Really exciting, starting next week with Lex doing communications, networking, and how to close sales and how to present yourself. All really, really great stuff. So now we will just wait for Chris to come back. He should be back any second. Here.
Hey, everybody. So I'm just going to, in the chat here, I'm just putting some of those YouTube channels. Some people, they're actually making significant living with their YouTube channel. So you look here, the highest paid YouTuber is a guy named Ryan Kaji, who makes $26 million a year on their YouTube channel. Another one, Dude Perfect, 20 million. 18 million, 17 million, 14 million, 13 million. Obviously these are, significant businesses in their own sense, but I just want to give you and show you an example. If, you worked really hard and you created a niche on YouTube, that there is opportunity. And, it's kind of difficult to think of, ways to make money doing it, but there are people who are searching YouTube, and, you can make money doing it. So anyways, just give you an example here. So obviously we're like at a pretty interesting time. No one obviously could have predicted this virus happening, but I always like to think of times like this when there's this unprecedented change, or this kind of crisis, and that there's always opportunities in these times. And I know sometimes it can be hard, like you may be laid off, or things are difficult, like the kids aren't in school, you're at home stuck with the kids, and the kids are driving you crazy, and your partner's getting frustrated because the kids are fighting all day, and you're not getting the same kind of sleep, and you feel like you're constantly cleaning the house every single second. And I'm sure a few of you guys can tell that I have kids at home right now, because it's been really challenging. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, I got 3 little kids at home, and it's tough. But what I'm trying to say is that there's opportunities in these times, and I've seen it too, because like there's there's funding now that is coming down the pipeline that wasn't available for businesses. There's I know these Aboriginal financial corps like NEDC and TAC and the Métis Financial Capital Corp. They opened up applications for entrepreneurs to apply for this funding. I think they're offering like $40,000, and only $30,000 is repayable, and it's interest free for 5 years. I mean, like, you have to be crazy if you were a business not to apply for this funding, because it's free money basically, and you could help you grow your business and expand, and maybe invest in capital or more marketing. But so you have to think of these times as opportunity, and maybe now you have more time that that you didn't have before. Oh yeah, there's the link there. That some of these different financial opportunities that's available. So you got, like, maybe you have some employees, and there's the wage subsidy program. There's emergency interest-free business loans. There's more time to pay income taxes. They're waiving tariffs on some of products. There's all kinds of these new opportunities, and you have to take advantage of these, and you have to look for them. They're certainly not going to come knocking down your door to say, hey, here's some free money, or here's you have to kind of take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and you have to go and go after these. But as well as, maybe now you have more time, like maybe you have more time to do your planning than you did before. Maybe you're on the SERB and you have all this time to get your business planning going. Yeah, so there's some relief measures for Indigenous businesses, if you want to click on that, Jay. So the government's announced $306.8 million to help small and medium-sized Indigenous businesses through their Aboriginal Financial Corp. So this is what I was talking about there, offering these kind of interest-free and business loans that have these grants attached to it that allow you to expand your business. So definitely look at them, apply for them. The worst they can say is no. So yeah. So anyways, there's just lots of opportunities, and I think one thing to do as a task, and you may have heard this if you've been in business for a while, is to do a SWOT analysis, and that's look at your strengths of what you do, look at your weaknesses, look at your opportunities that exist, and look at the threats, right? So what are you good at? What's your skill set? Where are your weaknesses? Like what aren't you good at? And document that, and then where are the opportunities out in your community or in your area? And then what are maybe some of the threats? Like what are some of that are things that are just not within your control that you need to be aware of. But if you look at that, it can kind of start framing different ideas and help you create some strategies on how to kind of focus and build on your strengths, how to kind of tackle your weaknesses and kind of exploit those opportunities, and to try to minimize these threats, right? Ways to see opportunity and change, right? Like, for example, this course we were meeting virtually. So we're collaborating now more than we ever have through software and applications. Businesses are kind of eliminating bad ways of doing things. Maybe before you had to do all this filling out of paper forms, and you had to keep these big folders and files. But now you look at things like DocuSign, or like PDFs, and maybe making a website and allowing people to fill out information online or order through your website. So you can develop new approaches and ideas, and oftentimes pain is a great motivator. Like with this COVID, it's obviously has changed how everything is being done, and obviously some people it impacts them more than others in negative ways. But I think that if you try to look for the positives and you try to look for the opportunity in it, you can kind of propel yourself. Like if you look at some of the companies that went through the Great Depression, for example, a lot of companies and a lot of people like stopped spending their money in their business and they kind of shrunk. But those businesses who went through the Great Recession, who like bumped up their advertising, what happened was is once they came out of the recession, they just excelled. They just went straight up because they identified that things were going to get better and there's going to be improvements. And once that turns around, they're just going to be in a really good position to really take advantage of it when people come around and they start buying or they start doing business. And they obviously like there's businesses that are really taking a big hit like tourism and hospitality and transportation and this stuff. But eventually those tourists are going to come back. Eventually they're going to need restaurants and they're going to need bus services or tours, and they're probably going to be really hungry for it. So you need to be in that position to really take advantage of those opportunities once they start turning around, because they'll come back, right? So I think, you just need to transform your business or transform yourself, and not maybe make the same mistakes, and don't remain stale. Recognize maybe some of the negative things that you were doing in the past, and then try to turn those around. Modernize, go online, learn the ways of technology more and embrace it more and grow and transform, right? Celebrate or commiserate. I think that's a really good expression, right? Rise above or self-destruct. Forging through difficult situations and demonstrating character achievement, achieving greater resilience. So, things you have now are more time maybe and opportunity for reflection, right? So use that to your advantage. So I think there's a video, Jay, about why businesses fail. So I want to, while there's opportunities, I think it's also really important to understand why businesses fail, because chances are, most people and their businesses will fail. Like the chances of you succeeding is way less than it is of you failing. So I think if you can understand the importance of why people fail, it can allow you to have a higher chance of succeeding.
Out of all the reasons in the world, and I've read your book, you have the 10, all these keys to success, etc. What would you say is the number one reason why people fail? Not necessarily why they make it, the complete opposite.
Right, lack of brains, lack of effort.
Lack of brains, lack of effort.
Yeah, they don't do the work. They don't learn, when you walk in the room, when you start a business and you start to talk about somebody, you're never in a vacuum with no competition, unless you're just extremely lucky. And if there's going to be competition, that means somebody else knows your business as well as you do when you get started. And if you walk into a competitive environment and they still know more about the business than you do and more about your customers, you're going to lose. But most people don't consider that. They don't do the work. They don't learn more about their industry. They don't know even about their business. And so you've got to put in the effort to know more about your industry than anybody else. And that's the brains part, and that's the effort part as well. Because look, if you're competing with me, you better know what you're doing, otherwise I'm going to kick your ass, and you're not going to outwork me. And so, the combination is usually what kills businesses early on more than anything. Alluding to it earlier about entrepreneurs being born or built, and I think I knew I was wired to be excited about business. How or why, I don't know, but and there's certain guys that have the genetics to jump out of the gym, right? There's certain guys, that when they golf, they have the muscle memory and the discipline. Dirk Nowitzki may not be the most talented guy in the NBA, but his discipline and his focus to do what's necessary to be successful, he's willing to do, and combine it with being 7 feet tall and being skilled, it makes him an amazing basketball player. So it's understanding what your skill set is, finding the right place to use those skills, and then going for it. Will that make you 250 grand? It depends if you pick the right industry. But whatever industry you pick, if you outwork everybody, if you try to be a little smarter than everybody, if you try to be a better salesperson than everybody, if you try to be better prepared than everybody, you've got your best chance. Because if you don't do it and somebody else does, I have the saying, work like someone's trying to take it all away from you. I actually work like someone's spending 24 hours, working 24 hours to take it all away from you. And that's kind of the way I look at it. You know, I started my first business when I was 12. I was buying and selling baseball cards, buying and selling stamps, anything I could do to make money. I was hustling and trying to do. So I was into business, but I not so much where it was all my friends were into it with me, so they wouldn't know.
Baseball cards.
Yeah, baseball cards, you name it. I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh. And so I would, probably even less than 12 years old, I would go out and buy a bunch of baseball cards that I collected. And I would package, I would say, okay, you're guaranteed to have a Pittsburgh Pirate in this package. And I would charge 3 times as much. And I'd set up on this park bench down in the park down in Scott Township where I grew up. And I'd have these little sales. And it was great. I made money. And I mean, it was, you know, and I learned as much about business when I was 9, 10, and 12 as I learned any other time.
Let's transition to a different subject with college. You went to IU,
Yep.
right? Now, you got a lot of people that say, forget about school, you know,
They're
drop
idiots.
out of school.
They're idiots.
So you think they're idiots?
idiots.
Tell me why.
If you're going to have and run a business, if you don't understand accounting, you're already behind the 8 ball.
Can't you hire a guy that knows how to
But
run
then
accounting?
they still have to communicate to you. Your accountant might tell you you're profitable, but your cash is going down. You know, not understanding a breakdown. And when you don't,
You think you need college to learn that?
yeah, I think you do, right? Because it may not, for some people, look, if you're so self-motivated that you can take an online course in accounting and teach yourself everything, you're way ahead of the game anyways. But most people aren't. I don't care if you go to a community college and take accounting and spend $99 for the class. Just, you know, spending the money forces you to be more obligated to do it. But accounting, finance, lesser extent marketing, sales if the school offers that, these are all that's the language of business. And so while it's possible to teach yourself these things and while it's possible to hire them, when you're starting your own company, you don't want to have to spend money hiring an accountant. Well, let me take that. If you've gone through all these classes, you probably don't have to hire a lawyer to incorporate, right? You can probably figure out yourself. And so your cost of opening up a business drops. But even more important than all that, that's the blocking and tackling. That's the language of business. You know, the thing I learned at Indiana that was more important than anything else, I learned how to learn. And learning became far more important to me because the one certainty in business is that it's always going to be changing. If you're not always learning, to this minute, if I'm not continuously learning, if I'm not just absorbing as much as I can absorb, someone else is going to kick my ass, right? So you talk about paranoia. The greatest source of your paranoia should be knowledge. If someone else knows more than you do, and if you're not learning, if you don't know how to learn, if you don't have a thirst for learning and acquiring information, you're SOL.
So do you think, like, let's just say if we put 10 guys here, you interview them, okay? You could, within a 5-10 minute interview, say, this dude's not going to make it as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, I can typically tell, right? I can tell by their passion. I can tell by their focus. I can tell by their preparation. You know, there's a whole realm of things in any business. Here, you know, here's the business you're in, and here's 1,000 things that influence whether or not you're going to be successful. You know, through my experience in businesses, I can put myself in his position and say, okay, here are 900 of the 1,000 things he has to be aware of, and then go through and ask. And by how many of those or her issues they've been able to address already, it kind of gives me a sense of how hard they're willing to work. You know, and I can tell by the questions they ask me. So all I have to do is say, okay, what do you want to know? And, you know, when they start saying, what should I do?
They ask you.
Yeah, you know, and that's fine, right? And I want them to ask questions, but, you know, people like to say, you know, the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, and that's not right, right? Because the questions you ask tell whoever more about you than anything else you do. Because in particular, it tells me about your preparation. If you ask me questions about just basic things that you should have known and you should have down to a science, that's going to disqualify you almost more than anything.
Do you think there needs to be a healthy level of paranoia?
Oh, absolutely.
There needs to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I always say, you know, for every one of my businesses, I say, what would I do to kick my own ass? You right? So whatever business you have, there's somebody trying to put you out of business. There's somebody trying to take a bite out of your business. And it's better for you to figure out how they're going to do it rather than they do it. And so, yeah, that's being paranoid. And so you have to be paranoid. You have to anticipate other people's next moves. And you can't ever, you know, downplay the competition. I was at a business plan competition this morning at a college, and they were kind of being dismissive of the competition. And so you can't ever do that. You know, they're out there trying to take you down, and they're not just going to sit still. And if you're good, really, really good, you're going to inspire them to work even harder, faster, better. And so you have to be, very self-aware of what you're good at and what other people are good at. And, a healthy dose of paranoia makes a big difference, is very helpful.
How does one entrepreneur increase the speed in areas that they can increase? There's certain things you can't control.
Speed in what way?
Speed of growing your business.
All right.
So how fast can I grow?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. You've got to know your own skill set, right? And you've got to know how that fits within your company's life cycle. Some companies are slow grind, and you just have to understand that, and you've just got to bide your time until it starts to click, and then grow with it quickly. If you're trying to release a product that needs to be ubiquitous, you've got to go as fast as you can, and then
release a product, like a launch.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who will say, perfection is the enemy of profitability, right? And that doesn't mean you have to wait till it's a perfect product. It really just depends on what the product is. It, a barbershop, right? Is it an app? Is it a service? Is it a product? But the key is looking for the low-hanging fruit. What customers are willing to write you a check or commit to it? So that they're willing to integrate it into their daily lives or integrate it into their daily business. And so getting a commitment either through time or revenue is typically what I look for. And so if I can get a commitment, then I'm going to be able to learn. I'm going to see how they use it. Do they sustain usage? And then once I get the next one, hopefully it came a little bit faster than the first one. Then I can ask for referrals, and then the next one, and I just try to ramp it up. When I bought the Mavs, we had no season ticket holder base. And so literally it was a matter of just putting a list of former season ticket holders in a white pages back then, on my desk next to my phone and making phone calls.
You?
Yeah, me. Yeah, because if I'm not going to do it, how can I expect someone else to do it, right? So just get on the phone. Hey, this is Mark Cuban. I'm the new owner of the Dallas Mavericks. I'd like to invite you back for a game. It's not, though. This is my business.
But you can't get regular sales guys or something to make those calls once they get to a quarter. You're a guy that's a billionaire. You're making those calls.
But that's all, and that's fine and good, right? Because everybody's got their own goals, right? But still, I didn't want anybody at the Mavs to be able to say, well, he's not willing to do the work, right? There's, if I walk around, I'm picking up all the papers. I'm not saying go get that picked up. I'm like, okay, that's trash. I'm picking it up. But in terms of speed of growth, it's really, you got to get that first customer first. And then when you get that first, what did you learn? Reiterate, get that next customer. And then hopefully as you learn more and more through the process, then the next one comes by even faster.
All right, so just basically some kind of key takeaways that I found from that video was, what he was saying about, work like someone's trying to take it away from you. I think the one of the key things about starting a business or expanding your business is just like working your ass off. Like that's what it takes. Like, if you want to be successful, you have to really be willing to put in the time and the commitment and just like work hard, like work as if someone's trying to steal it from you. He did mention the importance of like going to school and and understanding accounting. You don't need to be an accountant. There's people go to school 7, 8, 9 years and learn about accounting. You don't necessarily have to know you don't necessarily have to be an accountant, but it's important to understand about accounting, like things like cash flow, accounts payables, accounts receivables. Understanding the doing your remittance to the government and making sure your taxes are paid. All those types of things are important, or an employee remittance or what have you. Learning how to learn. I think this is one of the key things what school does for people is it basically teaches you how to learn. And there's never been a better time in our life to be able to learn because there's so much information at our fingertips. I mean, you got information right here, anywhere, almost everywhere you have it at your fingertips. Google, YouTube. You want to learn how to do something, all you got to do is Google it. All you got to do is YouTube it. You can learn and teach yourself. There's so much free resources online. I mean, just go to YouTube, like understanding the basics of accounting, right? Like he said, I don't care what, like Mark Cuban was said, I don't care if you go to community college, just learn and understand some components about business, because it will help you. And understand that business is always changing, and knowledge is important, and finding your passion. I think that one of the key things you notice about my presentations and is about, you know, finding your passion, and then pursuing that passion, right? And never downplaying the competition, right? One example is in the last year or two, in the last past year, I lost a couple clients because of Jimmy Pattison. So Jimmy Pattison obviously is a big, massive corporation, but he bought up a media company. And so what he, and through his media company, have been doing, well, he's been in the radio business for a long time, but obviously, you know, traditional forms of media have taken a big hit because of the internet and social media. So he bought a digital marketing company, and so what he's doing right now, he's going around and just like severely undercutting any other digital marketing company. So, you know, I lost out on 2 substantial clients over the last year because of Jimmy Pattison, right? And it wasn't due to me not working as hard. In fact, one of the clients that I lost, the day that he told me that that he was terminating the contract with my company, I picked up another contract for 7 times bigger than the other contract that I lost. So it didn't really hurt me. And the reason that it didn't really hurt me is because I had the new contract. But the reason why I got the new contract was because I had a network, and because in business you constantly have to build your network, and you constantly have to be kind of like sowing the seed, right? Like a gardener or a farmer. You know, he does all this work beforehand, prepping his garden, and he sows the dirt, and he plants the seed, he waters the seed, and then all of a sudden the seed starts sprouting, and then over time that seed turns into a plant, and that seed starts producing vegetables or fruit. That's like in business too. You have to keep sowing. It's like you can't be stagnant. You can't just keep doing what you're doing and expect that you're going to get the same results. You have to keep, you know, developing your network. You have to keep marketing. And that's one of the key things I always tell my clients is like, you can't just do like, you know, build a website, put out some marketing and expect that, you know, you're going to continually grow and continually expand your business. You have to keep marketing. You have to keep telling people about what you're doing. You have to keep going on social media. You got to use these new tools and these applications to market yourself, like YouTube and Instagram and Twitter, and reach different markets. And, you know, so I would say just, you know, never downplay your competition. I think that's a real key message that he had said, right? And, you know your own skill set, right? I think that's really important as far as, you know, knowing what you can do and what you shouldn't do. And I think that also really guides you in what niche market that you do, right? You know, another reason why businesses fail is lack of focus, right? Don't try to be a jack of all trades. Focus on what you do well, and opt to do what you love to do. And treating yourself as a monopoly will get you into trouble, right? Don't act like you're the only one in the workplace or the marketplace, and you gotta act that you're in this global community now, because people can buy your products and services anywhere in the world. You need to realize you always need to be, you know, adapting and changing and innovating, and realize that your competitors want to beat you. So, you know, it's always good to kind of do a little bit of a scan out in the world or the community and see what your competitors are doing, and see if you can, you know, emulate or you know, improve on what they're offering and add that to what you're offering as well. So I think it's really important to kind of, you know, realize that you're not just you know, acting like a silo. You know, another thing that can create failure is just relying on yourself alone. I think I mentioned this last night. So, you know, one of the most important aspects about entrepreneurship is empowerment. And the first empowering you do is for yourself and the people around you. You need a lot of people to help you. It's about trusting and empowering those around you. It's about, you know, public relations and empowering everyone that's part of your team, and collaborating with them. Like maybe, you know, you're good at bookkeeping, right? Or you're not good at bookkeeping. Maybe you hire a bookkeeper. You're not good at marketing, hire a marketing company. Lack of funds. Like this is one of the key things that businesses always fail. They don't properly plan when they launch their business, they don't put enough money that's required to do a good job. And it's foolish to start without having adequate funding. You set yourself up for failure. You don't give yourself a chance. Your capital is some of your utmost importance, and you need money to start and run bottom line. You don't want to be worried, well, where's next month's rent going to come from? Or, how am I going to make payroll next month, when you just first get going. So, it's important that, when you do, you give yourself a good opportunity and a good chance to really be successful. Another thing, lack of marketing, people need to know and find out about your products or services. You just can't just rely that people are just going to find you. You need to market your brand, and there's no excuses to not market properly now with things like social media, search engine optimization, video, content, web, email marketing, all those type of things. There's just so many ways to get your word out, and it doesn't cost you a lot of money to do so if you just are willing to learn and learn how to use some of these tools. And so, Jay, if you want to just look, there is a link there at some of the past winners from the bcachievement.com Indigenous Awards from 2019. So one of the ways that I feel is a good way to kind of do good in running a business, just want to go ahead and scroll down just slowly, is looking at what other successful entrepreneurs are doing. All right, so like here you see this list. If you just keep scrolling down a little bit, you'll see some of the past winners from the BC Indigenous Achievement Awards. So we're not going to watch this video, but if you want to go on your own time and look at some of the stories, and I would recommend going and actually looking at some of these businesses who have won awards, and see, okay, well, what are they doing? Like, what makes them unique and different, and how are they doing it, and what's making them successful? Because I think it's really important that you'll learn from these people, and take the good of what they're doing and see if you can do it. There's nothing wrong with trying to emulate success of other people and building off that. I think that's what great leaders do. They realize that they have their own limitations, and by learning from how other people do it, it can give them an opportunity to enhance and do a better job. And one thing I'd really recommend is that if you have this business idea in mind, explore who is actually doing this in business right now, and contact them and ask them questions about what it was like to run this business. And so find out like what things that they did that failed, or find out what things they did that were successful, and what were some of the challenges or barriers. I think that people who are in this business have no problem kind of helping other people who maybe want to get started out, because they realize what a hard road it sometimes is in entrepreneurship. So or maybe you can get a job with them and learn a bit about how they run their business. So I think that it's a real good strategy as far as being successful in business, is look at what other people are doing, and how are they being successful at doing what they're doing. So some other things about how do you win as an entrepreneur, right? Like getting gritty, persevering. You kind of heard that message before about like working hard, working overtime, right? Like grit is that go get 'em attitude that entrepreneurs need. It's that ability to keep working when everyone tells you to give up. And I know that in a lot of Indigenous communities and Indigenous people, again, they can be a really challenging group of people. That sometimes there's a lot of jealousy, and they don't like seeing people being successful. So I think that you really need to kind of put on those blinders. You need to just focus on those goals, and with hard work and perseverance, that you will be successful. again, it's just that having that right attitude, finding your passion, persevering, resilience, being proactive, really challenging yourself, pushing yourself to be successful, having that vision board, setting goals. Those challenges are, I think, what keep life interesting and keep your business going and keeping your business being successful and being nimble. That you can, if you have to quickly adapt or quickly change, you can, right? And a lot of small businesses have that advantage over big businesses because they can, quickly adapt. And again, just being passionate and doing what you love to do. And I really truly believe it's as simple as that, right? As an entrepreneur, you're going to have to put in long hours and make sacrifices. But if you're really passionate about what you do, those long hours aren't really going to feel like a sacrifice anymore. But if you're not passionate about what you do, you're not really going to have the motivation to keep going when you're stressed and tired. And believe me, there are a lot of times, when you're stressed and you're tired and you don't really want to keep doing it anymore. So then, you really need to kind of ask yourself, is this something that I really want to do, right? Because I think in your gut and in your heart and in your mind and your soul, you really know if you're doing something that you really like that you're doing. And I think life is just absolutely way too short to not really be doing something that you like to do, right? And I think, again, I don't think that as Indigenous people, you kind of fit that 9-to-5 mold. And, I think there's an entrepreneur opportunity for everybody. And it's just about finding what that passion is, combining it with that skill set, what your interests are. And, and not being afraid of taking risks. I think that's a real key thing. I think that's really what separates entrepreneurs from non-entrepreneurs is I think, people are generally very risk adverse. And, but being an entrepreneur, you really need to recognize that risks is what it takes, right? Sometimes you just need to, hire that person to get you going, or you need to make that initial investment, and you need to eventually say, no, I quit, that regular job and focus on doing what you do. And there are a lot of successful companies. I know there's a group of, there's a couple of sisters in Nanaimo and House of Lalem, and they have now a fashion clothing line. And they went through one of our programs a number of years ago, and now they're being featured on magazines, and they're they have video segments on them, and they're in fashion shows in Vancouver, and they're shipping and selling their products all over the world. And I remember having that conversation with one of the girls, is that she's still working her regular job, and she struggles with that security, that safety net of that regular job, but then also a growing business. And it's like, well, eventually you're gonna have to take that risk. You're gonna have to finally say, no, I'm not doing that job anymore, and I'm going to go full time with this business. And maybe I'm gonna have to work my butt off for a while, and maybe I'm not gonna make as much money in the end, but I'm gonna be doing something that I love to do. And eventually I know in my heart that it's going to get better, and I know that it's going to improve. So I think that it's really important that you understand that there are risks involved in entrepreneurship. You need that unwavering passion. You need to be comfortable with risk. You need to be persuasive. You need to be hardworking. You need to be humble. You need to be ambitious. You need to be able to be self-confident and adaptable. These are all the things that is important as entrepreneurs. Trusting yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, who will? Being a successful entrepreneur means that you've learned to listen in your intuition, and you rely on the wisdom when making decisions. And it never hurts to reach out and to connect with people in your community, like elders or other leaders or other successful entrepreneurs, and rely on them for advice and guidance as well. I think that sometimes it's really difficult making decisions on your own, and in entrepreneurship, you always have to make tons of decisions. And sometimes you need to make quick snap decisions, but you need to trust yourself, and it doesn't hurt to have that network of people that you trust. A lot of big companies have board of directors. Well, you can have your circle or network, and it never hurts to just pick up the phone and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about doing this, or I'm thinking about doing that. What do you think, right? People are always willing to give you their opinion, but I think it's important to, who you seek your advice from is really important. Like they got to be people who, are, someone who you really respect and admire, someone who has these type of, ethics and values and or skills or passions of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So I mean, again, it's going to be a lot of hard work, and it's going to be a lot of effort, and chances are, their first business idea may not work, or maybe your original business idea that you had doesn't work out, but maybe you shift and change, or you adapt. Like all businesses eventually will change what their products are offering, depending on what's more in demand. And one thing I always say in business is to like focus on the A and B clients and reduce the C and D clients. So like the A and B clients, those are the clients that give you the best return on, like they're the ones that pay the most, and those are the ones that take the least amount of time. And the C's and D's, those are the ones that pay the least and usually suck up the most time. And I think in business, we've all seen this, and it's don't be afraid to fire clients. You know what I mean? Like, don't be afraid to say, turn down some work, because you need to identify who is going to give you the best return on your time. Let's face it, your time is your most valuable commodity, and if you're not spending your time wisely, it's going to end up costing you in the long run. So, just make sure that you're focusing on your understanding that your time is a valuable commodity, and that that you don't waste your time on those C and D clients. You know what I mean? And just planning your finances, right? It's really important, right? Like making sure you get the funding, that you have the money, that you're in a position where you can afford to make as much money if you're expanding or you're starting a new business. And other things is knowing your customers. I think that's really key. Is one of the most common reasons that businesses fail is that there isn't a client for them. They have this really great idea, but no one's interested in their products or services. And if you start a business or make a product, but you don't know who will buy it, then that person may not actually exist. And that again also comes with learning and understanding how to research and identify. Like that's what's so powerful about social media. You can put it out there to your networks and say, hey, I'm thinking about starting a business, or I'm thinking about selling this product or service, and hey, would you be interested in buying this if I did this? So it's like you could have like these focus groups at your disposal using Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and get honest feedback from all kinds of communities and all kinds of networks on there, right? And at the same time is understanding who those customers are and be able to market them accordingly. One of the things in the technology I'll talk about is marketing using social media and being able to target advertise to who your customers are. If you're selling to say 20-year-olds, and you're probably not going to be marketing on LinkedIn, right? You're probably going to be using things like Instagram or Facebook, or maybe you're marketing to maybe you're starting up a recruitment company and you're hiring people for other businesses, and maybe you use LinkedIn. So knowing who your customers are is important, right? Another thing is important is, and ensuring you don't fail, is listening to complaints and getting feedback from your customers, right? Because understanding that is going to identify what your business's weaknesses are, and then you're able to kind of improve on those weaknesses. So I think it's important to take feedback seriously, and treat people's complaints with respect and listen. And now with the internet too, is you got things like Google reviews, Facebook reviews. So it's really easy if someone has a bad experience to go on and leave a negative review. I'm sure you've all seen that, right? It's totally revolutionized the hospitality world. When you're going to look for a hotel or book accommodations, you can see what kind of reviews that place gets, and there's just a ton of feedback. So now as part of marketing, it's really important that you understand the importance of managing this online reputation, and replying to this feedback on there, and understanding that this whole world of feedback and reviews exist online. So you need to manage that accordingly, and always be very professional about it. But at the same time, that you can use that to your advantage to really market and promote your company, because if you get people that go on and leave really good reviews about your products or services, then you can use some of that messaging and some of your testimonials, put that on your website, share that on social media, what other people are saying, and then if other people see these really good positive reviews about you, they're probably more likely to do business with you. So I think there's a lot of strategies on trying to minimizing failure, and trying to promote yourself, and understanding all the importance of what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, looking at other successful entrepreneurs, reaching out to other people who are in business and asking them for guidance or help, or what they would recommend, and that kind of sets the culture for your direction and your goals, and developing your network. I think is going to always really be super important, and kind of make you very resilient. Like my example about how Jimmy Pattison and their digital marketing company took away some of my clients, but because I had this really good network, I had things cooking already, and I picked up a new client the same day I lost one. So you kind of really need to make sure you network, and hand out business cards wherever you can, and tell people about your business, and promote, and always be promoting. I think that's important, right? Without trying to be arrogant, or trying to be too fake. I think it's important just to always be educating people about what you do, and why you do it, and then always promoting yourself. So we're almost done for the workshop tonight. We've got a few more minutes, but if there's any more questions on here, I'm just looking at some of this feedback here now. So one of the things about my comments about you don't necessarily need to be an accountant, or you don't need to go to school to learn accounting, but you could say, for example, teach yourself about accounting and cash flow, or learn how to use QuickBooks. I'll talk a little bit more about QuickBooks in the technology course. It's a bookkeeping software program that I use, and it's really easy. It's web-based, and you pay a monthly fee. It's not too expensive, but and if you're not necessarily that someone who's really good with bookkeeping or accounting, what I would do is I would recommend maybe hiring a bookkeeper to kind of help you set up your bookkeeping and show you a few things with it. You spend a couple $100 to a bookkeeper who knows QuickBooks really well for an hour or a couple hours of her time to help you set it up. That could save you a ton of money in the end. So another comment here: life is your school. You learn more from life than from a book. Yeah, I agree. I think one of the most important things is experience. I think it's way more important than any school or anything will teach you, because it's the real world. And in school, it's not necessarily the real world. It's kind of like you're in this institution. But what going to school does, and what Mark Cuban said, is that it teaches you how to learn. I think that's really important. It's the understanding how to take the information, process it, and be able to use it in the way you need to use it. So, I have always wanted to make moccasins and teach. I always wanted to YouTube how to make moccasins. That's awesome. I love that idea. I think that's great. Anything like you're really passionate or you're good at, make a video about it. Put it on YouTube. It doesn't cost you a lot of money, and you may get all kinds of people interacting with you. And you may be able to build a business out of doing that. Right? Like I think one of the things I said last night on the workshop was, online courses and this virtual coaching type of business. It's definitely something that's always going to grow. Yeah, nice presentation. Thank you very much for the feedback. You can use QuickBooks or Sage or other products to track your expenses, but you are taking time away from earning money. Yeah, that's true. But I think it's important that you understand like the money that comes in and the money that goes out, and as well as how much money you're actually making for your time, and what those that product or service that you're creating is actually costing you. Again, back to my point about focusing on the A's and the B's, and then not focusing on the C's and the D's is going to make your business more profitable, and again give you the best return on your time, because again, time is your most valuable commodity. So yeah, anyways, I guess it's about 8 o'clock now. So Jay, thanks very much for the opportunity to do this workshop, and I appreciate everyone's time. Came here and listened to me. Again, I put in the public chat my phone, my email, my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to do a mentoring session and learn more about anything that we talked about last night or tonight. I'd be happy to do that. Again, I'm really passionate about business. I love entrepreneurship. I'm always creating and starting new businesses, and I love technology, and I love all the ways that it can help businesses.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Once again, a great workshop. And it was actually very rewarding, because some of the stuff that you were talking about in terms of what it takes to be an entrepreneur, what you should do and what you shouldn't do, it basically reinforces a lot of the stuff that we had covered in the first couple of weeks and the first 8 webinars. So it's good to hear it over and over again, because they are really, really important. Just want to remind everybody, next week on the 8th and the 9th, basically, if you want to know how to close sales and if you want to know how to get customers, you should tune in. It's a great 2-series webinar with Lex Dunn, who is not only a marketing guru and a trainer, but he's extremely entertaining, and he really gets the points across. You will learn the secrets of communication, presentation, how to close a sale, how to get a deal done. So, oh yes, and one more comment he has, and yes, and so handsome. Well, I'll let everybody decide on their own next week, Lex. So be sure to tune in next week, the 8th and the 9th, communication, networking, how to close sales, how to do presentations. Very, very worthwhile part of this webinar series. So as I say goodbye to Chris, he becomes an attendee. I want to thank everybody for attending tonight. And I will reiterate, stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Good night.